Hello and welcome to our second day of our Deeper Than Design Summit. It's been a pleasure this week to prepare everything and to talk to these wonderful people that we're going to interview. And today we have a wonderful woman. Her name is Monika Acosta. She's an architect and interior designer, and she has specialized in neuroscience and neuroarchitecture. She has studied a lot and she has a mentoring process for interior designers and architects. And today we're going to talk to her a little bit about the interior design business, a little bit about neuroscience. And you can ask questions to her if you want to write them down in the chat, and we will answer them at the end of the interview. So let's call Monika. And please, Monika, join us.
Hi,
Hello. Good to see you. Welcome.
thank you.
It's,
It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much.
it's wonderful. It's wonderful. We are gathering like minded people around the world to talk about this beautiful subject that is how to help people with their well being and happiness in their homes, in their spaces. So, welcome, Monica, and thank you for accepting our invitation. First of all, I would like to ask you about your journey. How is it that you ended up doing this?
Wow. Um, I ended up doing this because okay, so I studied architecture and interior design as a master's, right? And all my life I wanted to create beautiful spaces since I was like 10 years old, right? But um, when I did interior design and I just chose to go all in, I started doing it. People were happy with it live, right? With the ones that I handed in live. However, when the pandemic hit, and I know it was a pivotal moment for many people, in my case, I was doing e-design. And what happened was that every time I sent a design and I was waiting for the response, like for the after pictures, you have, the before and after that designers do,
Mm-hmm.
um, I didn't receive what I designed. The pictures didn't look like the ones that I sent. So I was like trying to find out a way to fix this because, yeah, I just didn't know what was off, right? So there was a friend, a very good friend of mine, that asked me to do her house as well. I used to live in my country back then. She used to, well, we lived in different countries, so I also did e-design to her. And she did exactly what I designed. And I was like, she's not pleasing me. She's not doing it to please me. She's actually doing it because of something else. And then I realized that it was basically because I knew her. Without having to ask her any questions, I actually knew what she needed. So I knew her so much that I designed a space that was actually designed for her, not for what I thought that the person was, but for the person that I was designing for was. So that's when my quest began to understand how can I really get to know my clients as much as I know my best friend since forever, because I knew her since we were 2 years old, but in a shorter life moment, like shorter time.
Mm-hmm.
And and that's when I started investigating. I read about psychology and design and many other topics, and I bumped into neuroarchitecture, which was very unknown back then. Actually, I did bump into something called neurointeriorism, and I read about it in Spanish, but in English, I haven't read about anything like that. So I started in like learning more and more, and then I bumped into neuroarchitecture, and that's when I couldn't help it. I started reading and creating and putting things together, um, and getting in touch with also many professionals in that area. And I noticed that interior designers were very much in the dark about this topic. This was a topic that was only talked about in architecture, but not in interior design. So since I
Mm-hmm.
was in both worlds, I just chose like, you know what, I'll try to translate this information that I'm getting from architecture into interior design and see how I can actually bring it and help other designers. Because at the end of the day, we spend most of our time indoors, more than 90% of our time indoors.
Definitely.
So,
So why don't we talk about neuroscience and neuroarchitecture and neuro interior design? What is it about? What kind of information do you get from that? How is it that you're starting seeing different things?
well, what happens is that basically you get to understand the nervous system. So it's not that you are receiving any specific information from neuroscience that's going to change the world for the person. It's just that now you're asking better questions. Now you understand what the science says, what evidence says, and then you can actually translate it into the design that you're doing. And this doesn't mean that you are going to just, for example, if a research says that, I don't know, let's just pick color blue is
Mhm.
calming. Let's pick that because many people say that. Um, it's not that if you add a color blue to a space that is usually exciting, you're going to be calming people. It's not necessarily like that. It can be like that. Science gives you like the floor, as I like to say it. And then the ceiling, the user will tell you. It can be completely different or it can be exactly the same thing as research says. So basically,
Okay.
you're just getting to know the nervous system.
Okay. So I was going to ask you about that because in house coaching, we enter the process without any ideas, like in like a white canvas. That's how we start the
Mm.
process. Like we don't know anything, we just have to find out everything. So I wanted to ask you about that and neuroscience and neuroarchitecture. How do you individualize the process when you know all these things, that some colors calm you down, some colors excite you, some maybe geometric um, distributions have an impact on your brain? So how do you individualize the process?
Basically, understanding what you have as an evidence, but
Mm-hmm.
understanding that also that the person that you have in front of you is the real evidence.
Okay.
And this is for house designs, okay? Because it depends on what type of design you're doing. If you're doing some places that are public spaces, it's different because now you have to guide yourself with what research is telling you or um,
Mm-hmm.
what we know about cognitive processes, which are the way our nervous system actually works for every single person on Earth, not necessarily things that have to do with what we see or what we touch, but the way it simply works. Okay, so we guide ourselves with that. That's one thing. And then something that's for public spaces, that's how we do it. But for individual homes, it's different because we
Mm-hmm.
have the evidence from research. We already know these cognitive processes exist, but we also have to add now the evidence from the user, from the owner of the house or the person that's going to be living here. For that, you listen to their thoughts. So you ask better questions. I always say this. You ask better questions. And I have created this framework where we have 10 criteria to have a more to have a more certain information about the person and make sure that the 10 criteria that they need to be met as human beings to have their well-being enhanced are
Okay. Wonderful. So let's talk a little bit about the business and the industry. How do you see the evolution from when you studied to now? What's going on? What happened after the pandemics? How is the business nowadays?
yeah. It is it's I don't want to say this, I don't want to sound harsh, but it is greenwashing in a way. It's like well-being washing.
Mm-hmm.
We noticed when we were in the pandemics that our environments affect us in many, many ways. So what happened was that many designers, the ones that did not stay in the dark, are now saying, hey, no, so I am a well-being designer, I am a holistic designer. Um, I use biophilic design. So they use these big words. I call them big words because not everyone knows what they mean by that. They just use the word.
Mhm.
And that's what I'm seeing. Like there's a lot of people just communicating it. And when you ask them, it's very sad that they don't really know what they're offering. They're
Mhm.
basically offering every the same that every other designer, but with other words.
Okay.
And people notice that. Your potential clients notice that, and eh, it just repels them in a way. You know?
Yeah. Okay.
Hmm.
So I've noticed this because we train also interior designers, and we've had a lot of them in our program, and I see that mostly uh, creative people are empathic. Mostly, most of them, they are empathic,
Yeah.
so they can understand. There's an emotional need behind the project. There's an emotional situation with their client, with their families, whoever their client is. But it's not enough. Being empathic is not enough. Like, you understand that there's something going on, but then you don't know what to do with that information.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what you're saying. It's one thing to know the information, what's going on with your client, what's happening, what are the emotional needs, but then what do you do with that? How do you
Yeah.
translate that into interior design?
Yes. Actually, it's not. It's that's one thing, right? To be empathetic and to be like open and so people can feel comfortable with you, and they can tell you things. But the other thing is, okay, now I have this information. How do I, as you mentioned, translate it into design, right?
Mhm.
So the way to do this, and again, I come back to our framework with the 10 criteria, is basically understanding from our perspective, and this is what we teach, understanding the nervous system, and then also making sure that the person that you're designing for will be receiving what you design in a way that makes sense to them. Okay. And
Okay.
um, here, I'll just give you an example.
Yes, I was going to say, give us a
Yes.
story.
Yes, I know, I know. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's say you are designing a space for, I don't know, a woman that's been abused in the past. Okay, you're not, and you want to design their house. You want to make sure that the house that you're designing is not just looking pretty, but that it actually feels safe, which is not the same as being safe. It's not the same to say the space is safe because I installed cameras here and I
Mm-hmm.
have a safe in the door and all these things than to say this woman feels safe because she can't be seen from the outside. So the curtains that I put are actually, I don't know, they can't see her from the outside. Um, or because she can actually, I installed this, I don't know how to say this in English, intercom. So when
Mm-hmm.
you before you open the door, you can actually see who's out there. So
Mm-hmm.
things like that. The whole idea is to make sure that the person that you're designing for is receiving this space as they need it to be. The same,
Okay.
for example, for a person with a wheelchair. And this is more um, physical, okay, of the space itself, not just the person feeling safety, but for example, a person in a wheelchair, they need space for that. Or a kid that has some sort of neurodivergency, they also need the space to be specifically designed for them.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah,
So it's very individual, it's very particular. Like, you
yes,
have some ideas of safety, but then safety for one person can be totally different from another.
yes,
Okay.
exactly. And that's when I say you have to ask better questions. And this comes with how we do this is we understand the person's in front of us temperament. So we have four temperaments. And based on those four temperaments, we understand what is it that the person needs to hear to be able to answer the right questions. So it's not the same to communicate with a woman that lives in Costa Rica in a very huge home in the middle of uh, nature than with a CEO that lives in Boston, for example. You know,
Mhm. Yes. They
absolutely
they need
different.
different things. They need different
They
things.
need.
in communication.
Exactly, they need different questions.
Okay.
Even if you need the same type of answers, you need to ask different questions for them.
Yeah. And how do you work with designers? Because that's also something that we have seen in our program, that first we need to work with the designers, because they come from a school that they just learn design. They just learn how to mix colors. They just learned how to be like proportions of the space and distribution, but they have no idea how to deal with this kind of situations, that human communication and emotions and all that. So what do you do with them?
Yes, we explain the nervous system. All of us have the nervous system. It's something common to all of us, right? So we need to understand that we have a brain, a spinal cord, peripheral nervous system. We need to understand how it works.
Mhm.
So the designer that comes with only trends, styles, tendencies, these basic things, they're very important because that's what gives the designer the confidence to say, I'm a designer. You know,
Mhm.
I'm gonna do what you need me to do, the basics. But the designer that wants to design for well-being, they need to understand that the body is multi-sensorial or multimodal. You know, it
Mhm.
receives information from all the senses, and we don't just have five. We have
Mhm.
five sensing organs, but we have, according to science, I would say up to 33,
Yeah.
the last study that I saw. So, you know, the understanding that we do have more than five senses, understanding that we are multimodal, understanding that our bodies have memory, understanding how actually we perceive the environments, understanding that the environment has a way of allowing us to feel that it's part of us. There's something called extended cognition where you feel that explains in philosophy that you feel the body extended in your space. So your cognition is not just inside your body, it's actually extended to the space that's surrounding you. And for example, if I take this pen, now my brain starts to create possibilities with it. You know, so now I can write, but I can also, I don't know, touch someone that's next to me kind of far away, it can actually help me reach them further. So that's extended cognition. It allows me to believe that the space is part of me. So that's one, for example, of the concepts that we let designers know that exist, you know.
Mhm.
And with that, many others of the cognitive processes that I mentioned before, like for example, priming or hapticity. Hapticity is our capacity of, or not the capacity, but the sense of touch, basically,
Mhm.
right? But it's what allows us to feel the space and to to make it a part of us. Because as some neuroscientists say, we see with our skin. If I went to China right now with my hair, a lot of little kids would come near me and would want to touch it because they have never touched it. And what
Mhm.
happens is that their brain is not allowing them to really understand what it feels like because
Mhm.
they've never touched it. So it's like you need to touch something to then be able to understand what it is, right? Then hapticity is what allows you that. That's the kind of things that designers don't really understand, don't really know because school doesn't teach them that, but are
Mhm.
extremely important for us to design
Mhm.
spaces.
Yes, definitely. That's what we see, and we totally share these ideas with you, and that's what we think, that schools have to start integrating these things in their training, because it's like a fifth dimension of interior design that we have to be aware of, to be able
Yes,
to design for people.
yes.
So, another thing that I know that you've been working on and you have a lot of experience is about marketing. And I think that that fascinates me, because I've trained people in sales in for a long time, and I know this is like a whole huge world of how to sell, how to offer your value, your products. And I would like to ask you, why is it different when you are selling this kind of service than if you are selling just shoes, or I don't know, hats, or something else? What's the difference, and why is it is traditional marketing is not applicable here?
Hmm. Basically, because traditional marketing is fast and it is aiming for quick services. We are not
Mhm,
offering that. Quick
mhm,
services don't give you the trust that an interior designer needs to actually get their client feel comfortable exposing themselves to you. So then you can actually do a good job as a designer. Also, it doesn't have the consequence of time. So if you buy a pair of shoes, it doesn't matter. I mean, you buy them and it's okay if they don't fit next year. You just throw them away or you give them to someone else, you know. You might say like, "Oh, it's sad. They only have a year with me." That's it. But when you design a space and next year it's not working,
mhm,
that's not what you want. You know, so that's basically the three things that I would say that are very important, that are so different from our service than any other, like
mhm,
quick services and products. But the thing is that if we use the traditional marketing as well, traditional marketing basically is interrupting your clients. So they're like, "Hey, come buy me. This is my next offer." Da da da. And then you're looking for volume. Why are you looking for volume if you're an interior designer? With 10 designs a year, you can do it. You know, you don't need more than that. Good ones,
mhm,
of course.
mhm,
And then what happens with that is that if you if you're all the time saying, "I'm going to give you the best design, I'm going to do the best, you're going to receive the best aesthetics possible. Um, Come buy me. I have the special for Black Friday." Da da da. You're commoditizing your service.
mhm,
You're you're putting it as something extremely cheap, and it is commoditized because it's something that can be done with social media. Sorry, with AI right now.
mhm,
AI can do a space for you. So if you're just selling aesthetics, which is something that many designers are doing when they are designing only for aesthetics, not
mhm.
using well-being design, then they're commoditizing their service.
That's amazing, because that's what we've always thought, but it's wonderful to hear you saying it.
Yeah.
So how do you communicate your value? How do you teach that to designers?
Yeah. Basically, designers explaining. Okay, again, remember, since we have a mentorship, the mentorship is 12 months long. We spend with them, like we work with them and shifting this paradigm that school teaches them and understand makes them understand that's a real thing. And then
Yeah.
we actually embed something else in their minds. So there's three things that need to be understood by a designer when they want to create or to have a good presence and a long-term business. Okay. And it has to do with organic selling. It's not very markety, it's not very fast,
Mhm,
but it gives the real results. And you can stay in your business for a long run, for the long run. So the first thing is that they need to have coherence. Coherence is the baseline for everything because we have this process, this cognitive process called predictive processing. Predictive processing is what tells us that our brain, as we thought in the past, is not just receiving information as we see it. You're not entering a room and you see the information and you're like, "Oh, the wall is white, the door is white, the window is
mhm.
open." No, you enter the space and you're perceiving it before you enter it. Sorry, not perceiving it, predicting what you're going to have in the space before you enter it,
Okay.
right? So the same with our brands. If a person sees you saying one thing in one channel and then another in another and something else in another channel, You don't have this coherence that they need
Mhm.
to create this predictive processing about you.
Mhm.
And then it just, their interest just drops. That's one thing. So coherence around all touch points. The second one is generosity. And this is very important. Actually, I was talking about this with one of our mentees yesterday, I think it was. Yes, today's Tuesday, yesterday. So I was telling her, we need to be as generous as possible, giving out our methods, giving out our thought process, our the way we think, our everything, everything that's on our minds, but in a very scattered way.
Okay.
That continues to be generous. Why? Because if we only talk about the before and after, or we only tell our clients like, look how beautiful I chose this lamp. Yes, why? Why did you choose it? Why is so different? What is so different about you that you chose this lamp? What was the problem or the thought process that you had before you chose the lamp? Maybe you only had that only lamp, or maybe you had 10. Show the whole process because it will give your clients the possibility to see first that it's not easy, that they can
Mhm.
try to do it themselves, but if they do it with you, it's going to have more, like it's going to be grounded in something.
Mhm.
And second, that you have a thought process behind things and that you do things differently. So that's,
Let me ask
yeah.
you about that something because I totally agree, and I think storytelling is very powerful. Then
Hmm.
tell me about that.
Yes.
Like, how do you use? Because when we talk about the story of the lamp, it's not a lamp. It's a
Yeah.
supporting system. It's an emotional friend. Is it comes from the product to what the part is playing in my story.
Yes, exactly. I'll tell you about storytelling in a minute. I'll just finish the three things that I think that are extremely important, and I don't want to leave out the last one, which is
Okay.
patience. So we talked
Okay.
about coherence around
Yeah.
all our touch points, right? For that, we need to understand what's like the baseline of our business, of our brand, and
Hmm.
we can talk about it in a minute if you wish. Then we have generosity, so we have to give out as much as we can. And then the third one is patience. And the reason I don't want to leave it out is because there's this mm, immediate problem that we have right now. People
Yeah,
want
that we
everything
don't
for
have
yesterday.
patience.
Yes, people want everything for yesterday. However, if you do show up, if you continue to show up and just give yourself out there and put yourself out there in a very continuously coherent way,
Consistent. Hmm.
consistent, yes, way, and coherent in all your platforms and giving information out, be patient because it will come back to you. And
Hmm.
it will be what allows you to have a long-term business based on something real. Now to your question on storytelling.
Totally makes
Um,
sense. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, now to your question on storytelling, basically storytelling, if we think about it, what is it? Storytelling is a series of structured events, of structured befores and afters, or of structured of cause and effect with the human at the center.
Hmm.
That's what it is. And what is so powerful about storytelling is that it activates something that we have in our brains that's called, or in our nervous system, that's called mirror neurons. I don't know if you know about this, do you?
Yes, I do.
Maybe?
We use them at
Well,
coaching. Yes. Hmm.
yes. Well, if we activate the mirror neurons, we activate dopamine, oxytocin, so trust,
Hmm.
so empathy from the person that's seeing us. And this allows them to actually see themselves in what we are saying and be more connected with us and feel more confident and more comfortable by reaching out. That's one thing. And then the other thing that it activates is the limbic system. So the emotional center of the brain. You always want to activate that because it's very connected with the decisions that we make.
Hmm.
So it it allows you to be persuasive and engaging with the person that you're giving the information to. However, you mentioned a lamp. We want to be very careful in the way we communicate our stories because if we are at the center of the story, our clients may not um, feel connected to it, may not connect with it.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make the client that we have, or the potential client, or the imaginary client, the center. And we can make it through us. So maybe we can talk about us and then connect it to our client, or just directly to the client. So it's not, I don't want to be storytelling my life necessarily, unless you want to be an influencer, you can do that. But if you don't, and if you want to be an interior designer that's respected by their work and not just that they go to the gym and eat a beautiful breakfast, you know, it's not about you. It's about the decisions that you make based on your client's needs, on your client's situations, life processes, and etc. So yeah.
Okay. So what would you say to designers that are just feeling the I don't know, the uncomfortable feeling of lacking some sense and some meaning and some purpose, but they don't know where to start?
Ah, that's a beautiful question. I would tell them to first get to know themselves, to sit with themselves, to understand who they are, to understand their basics. Why? Because at least this is the way we work. Our business is born from us. And if we try to build a business that is born from someone else or from what we see in the market that people need, it's not going to connect. Not going to.
Mhm. What
So
does that mean? What does that not going to connect? How does that look?
how does that look like? People just see you and they think. So they have logic, right? But they're not remembering you.
Okay.
Or people are feeling what you're saying, so they have emotions, but they're not understanding what you're about.
Okay.
It's either one of those two.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just, oh, I see this person, it's interesting. Well, let me stay here. What is going to make them stay there? There's two things that make us stay, that call our attention. It's logic and emotion. And if you only see what you see, usually when we copy others, we're not authentic. We don't have the whole picture. So we're not really connecting. We're missing one of those two, either logic or emotion. But when
True.
we're doing it from the inside and it's coming from us, we have them both and we
Mm-hmm.
do connect.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So what is the impact on your clients when you do that? What do you think when you are able to connect with your logic and when with your heart with your clients? What is the impact? How does that look like?
Um, Basically, they feel so fulfilled with their business
Mm-hmm.
that and connected with it that it makes everything much more simple. Just to give an example, today, uh, it's a huge coincidence. Today we have one of our mentees in a very big event in London, design event in London. I can never say the word correct. It's Clock and World. If someone lives there, oh, Cece, are you there? There
Algo
you are.
pasó. Acá algo pasó. I don't know. I don't know what happened, and I panicked, but I had patience. What happened? Okay.
You're back.
I'm back. I get panic and I said, okay, I can have patience. I can have logic and emotion. Okay. So you were
We're
saying,
back. Okay, so wait, I lost track. Where were we?
my God, we were talking about yeah, you were going to tell me about an example of a student maybe that
Oh,
how does
yes.
that
Okay.
fulfillment, the fulfillment that they feel. Mm-hmm.
Yes, 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 yes. Okay, so we had this designer. She came inside the program last year. She was working at a design firm and she felt unseen and not doing, like, not fulfilling her purpose, let's say. With us in the process of understanding herself, because I mentioned you have to see yourself, you have to understand yourself and apply logic and emotion in both. Then when you see them both, when you see yourself on paper as well, it's a different process, right? It's now you're flourishing from the inside. Well, she quit her job, and this is, well, in less than a year from when she quit, right now, today, she was giving a talk, a panel at this event in London. So, why? This, right now, she is specializing in neuro-inclusive design. So, as a neuro-inclusive design expert, she was called for this event to create a panel. To, yeah. So, this is like the exponential growth that you can get when you have yourself very much implicated in the process of your business.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that totally
it
makes
is.
sense. Um, Maybe there's something that I feel like some of our students, for instance, the ones that we are training, a lot of them have uh, maybe this past training on how interior designers used to work in the world, used to sell, used to appear on magazines and books, and they used to be famous because of their design, not because of their impact on how they changed the lives of the people, or and and sometimes it creates a conflict. Like, for instance, one of the questions that everybody in every talk that we do, people ask, what if your client wants to choose something that you don't like? That's like the worst thing that can happen to a designer.
Yes.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? That is the
Hmm.
mindset is very very design oriented in terms of how is this going to make me look.
Yeah. Um, what I can tell you is that when you're a designer and you're not really a designer, which is our case, you know,
Yeah,
we're designers, yes, but
yeah.
we are like the vehicle that the
Mhm.
person can use to achieve something in their life.
Facilitators, maybe.
Yes, we can call ourselves that. Or transformational,
Agents.
yeah, let's go with that. Yes. Yes,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Well, you come from being a designer that would be the equivalent of a person that works at McDonald's that's just taking an order and giving you something back, right?
Hmm.
So I work at McDonald's. Hey, I want a hamburger and I don't know, a Coke. I'll give you that. Okay, so now I'm a designer, a normal designer. Hey, I want this space that looks like this. Okay, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
That's the equivalent. Or a nutritionist that tells you, I want to lose, I don't know, 20 pounds by the end of the year, just to make something up. And I want to eat this. Instead of just giving this to you, like, okay, take it. I will tell you, hey, if this is what you want, this is what you should be eating. You shouldn't be eating this other thing that you're telling me. So
Hmm.
if you sell yourself, if you know how to put yourself out there and how to communicate your value over everything,
Hmm.
the person that you're going to design for is going to thank you for telling them not to eat what they want to eat or not to create what they want in their space.
Yes, for sure. And I love the concept of generosity as well, because I think that's something else that I've seen a lot in the design world, that is kind of ego centered somehow. Like, I want to
Yeah.
be recognized by what I do and the designs that I publish and what people see about what my work is. And generosity is a totally different thing. Is I want to give what I can do, what I know, so people are happier and fulfilled and transformed.
Yes. Actually, some people are afraid of sharing everything they have and they know because they think that they're going to be copied. But it's the contrary. If you try to copy me or I try to copy you, we will do a mess. We will not
Yeah,
make it right.
for
It will
sure.
not it will not make sense,
Yeah,
you know? So
totally.
why? Because we are not doing it with logic and emotion. It's not done with the
Yeah,
baseline of ourselves in it.
yeah.
It's done with someone else. So
Mhm.
just allow them to copy you. Why? Because they won't do it better. And if they're copying you, it's because you're doing something right, you
Yes,
know?
for sure. Yes, and we were talking before the talk, we were talking about the competition, that when you think that what you do is what makes you good, then you enter into a competitive world. But when you are so comfortable with your heart and your mind, and you see the purpose of what you do, you can become more generous, and you can have more allies, like what we're doing right now,
Yeah.
that we have a lot of.
Collaborators.
Exactly. And that's what we want, to create a community of people that are looking for the same in the world, and in different ways.
Yes, exactly.
That's
Exactly.
wonderful.
Instead
That's
of
great.
instead of competing, you collaborate. And
Exactly.
this is something, as I told you before, I'll just give everyone that's listening some sort of a tip in a way, which is
Mhm.
what
I
I
was
do.
going to ask you next. Yeah.
Yes. So basically, it's just if I see someone that follows me, that can be my competition from other people's eyes, not mine. I don't believe in competition, honestly. I just say hi.
Hmm.
I go, hey, hello, welcome. What do you think? Why are you here? What do you think that you can get from here? I think we can collaborate. We're um, in a field that does the same thing. Maybe we could do something together. And that drops right away the competition flag. It's
Yes.
like, I will not allow this person to be in my area, in my territory, without having talked with me before
Yes, yes,
first.
that's beautiful. And that's what we were talking about before, as well, when we first met. And I think it's a good moment to talk about that. We are very good at coaching our designers on developing this coaching uh, um, skills, on how to ask the questions, how to accompany your client through the process, and all that. And you are very good at building a purposeful and meaningful business and making it thrive. So it's very compatible, and I think it's very symbiotic.
Yes, yes, yes. I totally agree. I think actually that what we offer others are is needed on each other's field, you
Mhm,
know? So yeah,
mhm,
basically what we do is help designers understand who they are, who they're not as well.
mhm,
So it's not just who are you, it's also you are not, what you believe in, what are your values, what is your meaning of well-being,
mhm.
what is important to you, what is not, what are your boundaries, which is very important in design. Um, and then and also yeah, all that. And then we translate that into their business. So we put that as the baseline, as the core of their business. And from there, then that's where you get clarity, for example, because we have five steps to develop a very grounded, I would say, business, which is the first one, clarity, that I just mentioned, everything about you, yourself, and you. Then you move into niche, you understand who you want to work with, who you can bring value to, who's out there waiting for you to help them, you know? And it's very connected with your backpack. Everyone has a backpack. It's very connected with what you bring from the past. You don't have to be an interior designer since forever. Actually, I think that a lot of the people that are very good at design at this field of designing for well-being are not necessarily designers from the start. They come from
Mhm.
other fields and then they bring what they have and they flourish there. So now you have clarity. Then you have the niche, who you want to help. Then you understand what you can do for them. So your services, your pricing, your offers, all these
Mhm.
things. Then you get out there and you position yourself. Now you have a position in your market because you're not just another designer. You're not, I design beautiful spaces. Um,
Like millions of designers that are already out
yeah,
there.
yes, exactly. You're not competing. You're already someone else. You're completely different because you're basing on yourself. So now you're positioned in a market, in a space where if all of these are the designers, you're here, out there, you're out of the bubble. And the person that finds you, they will not fight price. They will not compare you in any way. They will just say, okay, take my money. If you are doing what I told you before for generosity and coherence and patience, of course. You know,
Hmm.
if you're doing these three things, when people find you, they're just
Yeah,
gonna ask you,
yeah,
take my money. You
for
know, like,
sure. Yeah,
where do
that
I
has
pay?
happened to us. That has happened to us in our business as well. I'm
Yeah,
sure. When people find
yes,
you and they say, "This is what I want. This is exactly what I want. So I will pay whatever it costs." Yeah,
yes, exactly.
that's wonderful. Okay, Monica. So we have a few minutes left, and I want to let people write some questions on the chat
Sure,
before we go, so we can answer them.
sure.
Okay, there's one here. How do you explain your services? How do you sell? Imagine you are in a meeting with and someone you ask you what you do and what you have a minute to present yourself. It can be a potential client.
For my service or as an interior designer?
That's a good question. As
As
an
an interior
interior
designer.
designer.
Okay. And let's say that I am specializing because I cannot allow anyone, at least in our mentorship, to get out without by just saying I'm an interior designer. So they're
Okay.
specializing in something and they do
Okay.
something based on something. So
Okay.
um, I'm an interior designer specialized in well-being based on cognitive sciences principles, and I do spaces for families where I help them create more center spaces for their children so they can flourish and feel centered in their home.
Beautiful. That's like an elevator pitch, and then you
Yeah.
know if exactly what you offer. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And
I
this is something that we practice every single month, I would say, because we have different types of sessions, but we practice it.
Okay.
So the designers that are with us, they know what to say, how to say it. They feel very comfortable saying it when they get out there. And people are just like, okay, thank you. So if you're interested, you ask more. If not, it's like,
Yeah.
I know everything now,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep. But it's very specific. Very specific.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the whole idea.
Yeah. Okay, here's another one. Do you think neuroarchitecture will change the way we understand interior design in the coming years?
Yes, yes, it will. Um, it is already doing it, I would say. There's many good work being done by many professionals in this field. And we do have to, I would say, chapeau, like take my hats off to them because they're doing a very good job to understand the nervous system inside the environment.
Hmm.
However, it is a very delicate topic because it will change the way we design if we know how to do it and we don't take credit for something that we are not. If we
Hmm.
say that we're designers changing lives, we're doing it wrong. We're not telling the truth because I can't change your life. What I can do is condition your space for it to be for it to give you the nudges, for it to give you the affordances for you to create a change in your life. But I
Okay.
can't assure that it will change your life,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
However, we do have the tools to create that conditioning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I think it's something that is happening in other fields, right? Because now musicians are talking about neuroscience and how some music makes you feel calm and some music makes you feel anxious, and I think neuroscience is invading all fields.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
everywhere
that's
since the 2000s when it was pushed by several governments to be the decades of neuroscience, and since then it's been touching a lot of different fields, actually.
of course. Yeah, there's another one that is it's always been very interesting for us in the House Coaching Institute, and it's working with couples.
Hmm.
When one is trusting and the other is suspicious and not trusting, and the relationship is kind of unbalanced, how do you work with couples?
You work separately with them.
Hmm.
When you have a couple, when you have a family, when you have a household with more than one individual, you have to ask to meet them separately and understand their temperament, to ask the right questions to that person and then the right questions to the other. So the same question, different words, I would say, to communicate better with the specific person that you have in front of you. And then you kind of merge the information between them.
And then you create the design according to all that information, I guess.
Yes, exactly. And if you
Mhm.
need to then meet with both together again and tell them, okay, so this person said this and this other said this, now
That's
let's
okay.
get together and make it like merge it, then it
Hmm.
makes sense. But if we meet, we're not therapists.
Yeah.
We can't pretend to be therapists either.
Yeah. Hmm.
So what we do is just I can meet with you, then with you, and then we can put together the inputs that I got from you two,
Hmm.
but I can't fix the couple.
Yeah.
I can't fix the problems that you might have. I just want to create a space that conditions
Hmm.
you fixing your
Yes, a
situations.
more balanced relationship. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Great. Thank you for that. So, can you share the feedback any of your current customers have given on applying this knowledge to their services, like an interior designer that has started using these techniques and this philosophy?
Well, okay. Yes, of course. We have, and I will tell you like the latest one, the last one that happened. There's a person in, she'll kill me. If she's here, I'm so sorry, Sasha. I always forget her country. Oh my God. I told her oh, Bulgaria. Yes, I told her the other day. I thought you were in Poland. No, it's in Bulgaria. She's in
Okay.
Bulgaria. She comes from the IT world with a
Okay.
background in interior design. And she entered, I think it was in August with us. So she went through this whole process of understanding herself, knowing who she's not, what she actually believes, da 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 da. And last week she got together, I think it was Monday, she met a potential client that came through her husband because once you know who your potential client is, you know how to go in front of them and say, hey, this is my service. Not that rude, not being rude, but just exposing
Yeah.
yourself in a very calm way and a very confident way because now you
Hmm.
have all the clarity in the world
Yeah.
and you're so aligned with yourself. Like you don't try to sell, you're just putting what you do out there,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
So she did this and she met the person. It was fine. She sent the proposal and they said yes yesterday on Monday. So in just 1 week from August, where she had an IT background,
Yeah.
now May, she's having her first client.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful. Because
Yeah.
she's aligned with her purpose. She knows what to say. Everything is coherent. So it's easy to
Yes,
understand.
yes. She has
Yeah.
her main pillars because we work with pillars. We work with many things that have to do with yourself, with your values as the core.
Hmm.
And it just connects.
Yeah.
You're not trying to be someone else.
Yeah. And you're not pushing, you're not making people buy something they don't want, which is the horrible sentiment.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Oh, wow. That's amazing, Monica. I think we covered most of the subjects, and I thank you. Thank you very much for coming to this This summit is our first. I hope there are a lot more coming in the next years. So thank you for being in this first one, and I hope we will work together and see you soon, because
Yes, thank you so much.
we have a lot to do.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you so much, and see you tomorrow on our third day. We're gonna have Kimberly Gardner, and it's gonna be a great talk as well. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow.
Yes.
Bye,
Thank
Monica.
you for everything. Bye,
Thank
Cindy.
you.
Bye.